Assalamualaikum, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to review a couple more shows that I've been watching, Pakistani dramas specifically. And we're going to start with Duniyapur. Duniyapur, if you know from my previous videos, I actually had just started it and then I stopped it because I was so overwhelmed with the shows I was watching. However, I have finally sat down. I watched until episode 4 and I have a lot of thoughts. To start off, it's very different from basically all the other shows that I've seen so far. It's not just focused on your typical, in-law drama situation. There's a lot more going on, so let's get right into it. So far 4 episodes are out, and I have to say the most recent episode was probably the most disturbing episode, and it was really uncomfortable to watch, to be honest. The show basically follows 2 powerful families, the Nawabs and the Sahabs, and it follows their struggle for power over the land, specifically Duniyapur. It's clear it's a very patriarchal society, as it typically is, but it's a little bit more intense where women literally are just pieces to move around and use as needed for their own gain. There is no value, in my opinion, except for when it comes to honor or the honor status. In the most recent episode, Sahab, who is the leader of the family that currently has the most control over Duniyapur, is put in a position where he has to give up his daughter for marriage to the other side's family, specifically the head of the family, who is like a 60-70-year-old man, in order to get his son back. And this all happens because the son goes into like a fit of rage, is completely unchecked, and decides to attack the opposing Nawab family. He gets caught. He went in with like zero planning and was just angry and got caught. And now in order for him to be returned safely, he needs to, or the Sahab family, I don't know how to say it, the Sahab family has to give up basically all of their control over Duniyapur and also their daughter. And it seemed like he was at least pausing for thought to process, and then he finds out immediately that his daughter actually likes his right-hand man's son, and so he just loses it and kills the guy. Like, there is no questions asked, and he shoots him in front of his daughter. And she goes into shock, and Sahab says that his daughter is no more for him. She has dishonored their family and everything, and so he has no problem giving her up for marriage to a 70-year-old man and his basically enemy. This was really disturbing for me because I did not expect that to happen. I did not expect it to play out so intensely and all of a sudden and so nonchalantly the way it did. And it was really upsetting to see not only that she just got married, but also like the night of the marriage, they show that you can hear her screaming, and it's clearly a very upsetting scene. And the sister wife is just like, oh, she's gonna learn now that both sides of the family, or both families, are like batshit crazy and they just do whatever they need. And it was really like sad because the daughter is traumatized from seeing her lover, or I don't know if you can count him as a lover, because she literally just said, I like him, and like that was about it. But she went into shock and she assumed that he was gonna be okay, and also assumed that she was marrying him, and that's how and everyone basically plays along with it until the very end, when I guess the actual guy that she was marrying comes into the room, is like, yo, let's get down to business. It was really uncomfortable. So that was obviously one of the most disturbing things to see in the show, but what was also disturbing was the fact that the men face 0 consequences, so far at least, for their actions. And just because of what her brother basically did, she had to face the consequences of it, and not because of anything she did, but the fact that she liked someone else, and you're not allowed to like someone if you're a woman, basically. They had no issue with her having to deal with the consequences of her brother's actions. And I just think, like, I feel like, so the Sahab's son, which is Ali Raza, who is the guy that plays Murad in Noor Jahan. That's my reference point all the time, but I think his name is Nawab Adam. If he just had a more clear head on his shoulders and he wasn't so like in his teenager phase, I feel like none of this would have happened. But he remained unchecked and just went and did whatever he wanted, and that resulted in him getting captured and probably tortured for some time and kept in very poor conditions. It was really sad because the Nawab did not keep his word. He was like, oh, you'll get your son back in like the next day, and he tells his own people like, oh, give him in like an hour. I feel like that was really, the implications of that was really like grotesque to me. Like, oh, once I'm done with what I need to do, then you can have your kid back. And it was just really, this show so far has just made me uncomfortable in every way possible. And I know that the daughter of the Nawab, I think she's being played by someone called Ramsha. I think she's going to try to collapse both sides or do something, because she is just forever trapped in the situation and she has no freedom in the situation, it seems. The twist that I really liked in the end was the fact that basically Sahab's son, Ali Raza, is being returned to him, and he's being driven in the car with the Nawab's son. The Nawab's son is the only one remaining, or the only son remaining in the family. The daughters don't count because like they're women, but yeah. So there's a son from either side of the family in the car being driven back. And I guess the right-hand man of the Sahab actually takes like a, what's it called? I don't know what the weapon is called, but a bazooka, and like basically ends them. The car goes up in flames, so I'm assuming they're out of the picture now. And I think either side is going to blame the other, and there's going to be more war and bloodshed, and they're just gonna keep fighting till the end until I think there's nothing left. And that's, I think, when the right-hand man is going to try to take his place, or the place of both of the people, because of revenge. And I think also like revenge for his son that got shot, but also because I think that was his plan from the beginning, because it seems like he's in cahoots with the wife of the Nawab, the first wife of the Nawab, and they are just trying to get power and control. So I think this is all being orchestrated by them. It seems really confusing, and I didn't expect to have to think this hard for a show, but I am. Or at least a Pakistani drama, because they're usually just like in-law stuff, or that's at least what I've been exposed to. So this was a pleasant surprise, but that's what's going on. But my final thoughts about the show would be, first of all, I don't understand why Sahab didn't just get rid of his son. I know he's the only, oh no, he has two sons, so he should have just gotten rid of this angry, angsty son that clearly does not follow instructions or have a good head on his shoulders. And he should have just gotten rid of him and been like, yeah, you can do whatever you want with my son, or just like gone and shot him himself. But he had to sacrifice his daughter, and now he only has one son that like feels really bad about what happened to obviously his brother, but then also his sister being punished for like no reason. So I don't know how that's gonna play out, but he should have just gotten rid of the son, like the Ali Raza playing son. And my final conclusion is all of this drama could have been avoided if Murad, Noorjahan, Ali Raza just stick to the plan and listened to his elders, and he wouldn't have been tortured. His sister would not have been tortured for the rest of her life, basically. This could have all been avoided. That's my conclusion. Men and their unchecked emotions. Oh my god. Let's switch into another drama, Ghair. I'm so excited to talk about this. I was so pumped after the 9th episode, and then the 10th episode came out, and it was good, but the 9th episode was really, really good. It finally had things coming, I guess, to a climax, at least for this first arc, because I'm like, now that this has all happened, I don't know what's gonna happen next. But I loved everything in these last 2 episodes, and I was losing interest. I mentioned that in my previous video. I had lost a lot of interest, but then it got reignited with everything that happened in episode 9, because even though we had conclusion on everything that happened like 20 some years ago with Wafa's mom, Hawa, it was really nice to finally see what's gonna happen with the current situation, and it was kind of sad how things played out, but it was good. So at the start of the episode, we find that Shifa, Salis, and Wafa have been caught by Farjad, and now we're going to find out what happens when they get back to the house. Farjad loses it. He's extremely conservative and honestly really unstable. Have we noticed in the drama so far that the men seem to be very unstable? That's what I'm seeing a lot, and it's a little bit much. I think we need to do something about that in our society if this is how men are going to be, and if this is a good representation of them. I don't think so, but I mean, I would like to not believe so, but I'm not surprised. The acting and the dialogue was so good for this episode. It was so nice to finally see Wafa stand up for herself and make it clear that she is being misrepresented, and that things are being said that she is saying or doing and it's not true. Unfortunately, everyone decides to just continue to plan against her, including Shafa and Salis, and all the blame gets put onto her, and they decide to say that Salis and Wafa are involved with each other. Wafa likes Salis, and Salis actually says, yes, I do like her, in order to save Shafa. How frustrating. Just because Shafa could not handle her family, and yes, her brother is unstable, she shouldn't have been doing all this in the first place if you know your brother is that crazy, and she definitely knew he was that crazy. And all of this could have been avoided if she just stayed in check, but she refused to do that, and she basically put all the blame onto Wafa. And Wafa she's the black sheep in the family from the get-go. Everyone has something against her because of what happened in the past, not because of what she did, but because of what her mom supposedly did, which we all know watching the story that her mom was also innocent. It was so frustrating to watch, but she gets blamed from every angle, and then the only people that could save her was Shafa and Salis, but Shafa wanted to save herself, so she lied, and Salis wanted to save Shafa, so he threw Wafa under the bus. I just think if you are people like that have no issue throwing someone under the bus and lying through your teeth, and you can so nonchalantly lie, you guys are evil. Like, terrible things should happen to you. You should face the consequences of your actions. And Shafa does, so that is a saving grace in all of this. However, I just want to say the whole situation was so blown out of proportion, and everyone was so, like, they were overacting and overreacting. I would say overreacting. The acting was fine, but it was overreacting that made it seem like overacting. And it was just so much. All the Bobbies, Farjad's mom, Wafa's stepmom, and the nund or the sister-in-law to the Bobbies or whatever, they were like, oh my god, this was obviously gonna happen. They just kept playing it up, and I was like, bro, like, can we diffuse the situation? Because clearly Farjad has a gun in his hand. No, they just kept going off. And then Wafa's biological father is just like, oh my god, of course this was gonna happen. I'm like, I just don't understand why there's no brain processing power in these adults. And then Farjad's father doesn't really make much commentary, but he is surprised and disappointed for sure. The grandparents were probably the most disappointing, because they turned, in the beginning, they were the only ones taking her side, or like, not taking her side, but giving her some grace, you know, treating her a little bit better, but also ignoring everything else that was happening around them, knowing that everyone else is treating her like crap. With this, they also decided, okay, she's terrible, why did we do this? And they even mentioned afterwards, like, oh my god, we were the only ones, or the grandmother is like, I was the only one that wanted you to come back because you're our blood, but this was clearly a mistake and everything. And that is so heartbreaking, and having to go through that, like, now everyone hates you and everyone is blaming you, and now everyone wants to get rid of you, and then also everyone has suddenly decided that you just should get married to the guy right now and leave right now because we don't want to deal with you right now, was insane. And they literally just got her married like that, and she was just like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this. But in the end, she does do the nikah. And I think it's because I'm pretty sure it's because she realized that no one is on her side and she is totally alone. They're gonna force her to do it or kick her out, or something is going to happen. Like, there's nothing that she can do, basically. And so she continues with it. Now, up until that point, Shafa and Salis could have cleared the air, done something, could have talked to the parents, but clearly they're incapable, they're incompetent, and they're cowards. And on top of that, they also know that all of the adults are extremely unstable, and they just say and react so intensely, so quickly, that even if they were to try to talk to someone in private to resolve this, they would just bring everyone into the situation, and then Farjad would know, and then everyone would be going crazy. And then also Shafa's mother would not be able to be like, oh, my Sharif girl and whatever. She couldn't play into that as much, and they want to obviously save their own reputation, Shafa's reputation specifically, and so they just went with it. And I was just like, bro, that is wild to me, oh my god. And then after all of that is done, Salis feels like he was wronged. He feels like his love was taken away. That was what really pissed me off, because this is the thing with men. They will cause problems, and then they have to deal with the consequences of their problems to a much lesser degree, usually, right? But he has to deal with the consequences of his inability to speak for himself and take a stand for himself, And I understand the situation was a little bit more, you know, escalated, more intense, but still, right? What did Shifa do? Or not Shifa, sorry. What did Wafa do? She didn't do anything. She was completely innocent. If anything, she didn't want to go along with them, and she thought this was a bad idea, and she didn't think that they should even be involved with each other, because if they got caught, they would get in a lot of trouble. Not her, Shifa and Salis. But she goes along with it anyway because Shifa really wants her to go, and then she ends up having to deal the consequences of their actions when she had nothing to do with this, and she was not a part of this. She has no interest in any of these two people romantically at all, and now she has to deal with the consequences. It was so upsetting. I cannot believe they would do that. I will say that I do appreciate the fact that Wafa finally did stand up for herself, because this was clearly like, there are limits to how badly you can treat someone, but now to tell them that you know, you're the one doing this bad thing, which is going and seeing a guy you like, and now you're the one having to get married to this person, made no sense. And she was just like, what is going on? She had zero control of the situation, but honestly I feel like she should have just left, or like there should have been like, people should have been like, let's give this, like, let's sleep on it one night. But no, they were just like, we gotta get rid of this problem as quickly as possible. And all the adults were on board because they all have problems with Wafa because of who her mother was, right? So they were just trying to get rid of her. They were like, oh my god, let's not sleep on it, because then people will come to their senses, maybe, hopefully. But they end up doing the wedding or the nikah, and literally they just like put a piece of cloth on her head and they're out. Like, that was ridiculous to me. But yeah, I think currently my least favorite character has to be Shifa, because she did all of this to Wafa after, you know, claiming literally like an episode before that, look how much I do for you, you can't just come with me to the movies or whatever. Like, she is so selfish, and she gets to stay in the protection of her entire family, even though her family doesn't know that she's the bad person that they're thinking Wafa is. Like, she has all of the negative qualities that they have thrown onto Wafa. And then also, I seriously dislike Salis for what he did. Like, honestly, like, for you to throw someone under the bus that you don't actually know, okay, you've only met for a short period of time, like Wafa, a couple of times, and you don't really talk to her. You're talking to the girl that you like all the time when you guys do end up being in the same area, and for you to just be like, yeah, and then for you to also just be like, okay, when they're like, okay, now you're gonna get married. Like, this was so difficult to watch. It was so upsetting, and I really don't want to believe that this actually happens in real life, especially that quickly. That is ridiculous. I really think in real life they would have just been dead, unfortunately, or at least Salis would have been. But then the fact that they don't care about Wafa, it doesn't really matter, but it would have just been like an ego thing because they just don't like Salis. The only good thing though about all this was Salis's mother. The fact that she seems like the type that's going to be kind to Wafa, not just at the beginning or just in front of her son, but like actually kind to her, because she understands how alone she is, and I think she's not evil. My favorite part in episode 9, and honestly, like episode 9 and 10, the best thing in both of those episodes had to be when Wafa finally goes to her grandparents before she leaves, like her home, or like the place she was staying at, because I don't know if they welcomed her enough for her to feel like it was a home. But she finally slaps it into her grandmother and grandfather's face, the fact that like clearly you only care a lot about your daughters, and she states basically like, was Hawa the bad person because she was your daughter-in-law and not your daughter, because they protect their daughters so much, but they clearly don't really have any concern or grace that they give to their daughter-in-laws or someone that they don't consider part of their family, the way Wafa was not considered part of their family. And they kind of clap back at her. I just feel like at that age you should have more wisdom, more insight, you know, you should have had more time to reflect on the past. But no, they were just like, good, you're going because you're just as bad as we thought you were. And I'm like, okay. Now, in the most recent episode, actual favorite thing was probably the fact that Shifa had a breakdown and she was so upset, and the fact that no one that could comfort her, even though she had all the comforts around her. She has her parents, she has her a brother even apologizing to her, she cannot be comforted, and she ends up like screaming and having a breakdown because of everything that has gone down. The only thing that triggered this was the fact that she got to see Solace and Wafa together as they leave the house, as they're getting kicked out of the house because Solace's father is kicking them out of the house. But she's just upset that they're seen, like that they're together, and she can't have what she wants. And it was so nice to see that breakdown because I wanted her to have a breakdown. I did not like that people were trying to comfort her, but I did like the fact that they could not truly comfort her because they don't know what she's really like and what she's actually crying for. And Farjad is getting a lot of flack, it seems, because of everyone thinks it's because of what Farjad did, the fact that he was so aggressive and he was literally ready to kill her, which he would have for sure, based off, you know, everything that I was seeing. He for sure would have done that if the truth actually did come out. But the fact that he had to apologize to her and was genuinely trying to comfort her, I was like, girl, oh my god. And the last thing that happens closer to the end of the most recent episode, the fact that we get to see Wafa and Solace interact, and you see Solace is totally done with the situation and he's like just checked out, and like Wafa's like, how are you so nonchalant about this, like you literally got kicked out of your family? And he's just like, oh, like, you know, I'm a lardla beta or whatever. And he clearly isn't, you know, he's just like, whatever, like this shit happens all the time. Like, I don't think that's a normal reaction to being kicked out of the house and then also being forced to marry someone you didn't want, like, you know. But he's just like, okay, well, I'm just over this. And it would have been fine. I would have hazmed it better if it wasn't for the fact that Wafa had nothing to do with this and she's having to face the consequences of all of this when it was your doing. But I did like that we get to see Wafa's personality a little bit more, and we're also seeing Solace's personality a little bit. But I don't like the idea that they're gonna probably, you know, have their moments. This is gonna be like a neutral to like enemies to lovers situation, and I don't know how I feel about that because I don't want Solace to be happy. I'm sorry. Like, for what you did, you don't deserve to be happy. And Shifa is going to become so bitter, probably, I feel. She'll probably move on, but she's gonna be bitter like her dad's sister is with the whole Hawa situation 20 years ago. There's just a lot going on, and I just don't like what Wafa is having to go through. Even though we're getting to see a little bit more lightheartedness after all of that intense drama, I feel a little uncomfortable with the fact that Solace is just like, okay, well, this is life now. I get it, it is life now and you have to move on, but it's just a little bit uncomfortable. Let's go to a couple that isn't as uncomfortable. Kabhi Tum. So Kabhi Tum has been really interesting. 28 and 29 has come out, and honestly 30 is coming out very soon, so I'm excited for that. But so far we're finally seeing the downfall of Adeel, which is really nice to see. This is what I was waiting for. Rabav decides to come back because she realizes what's going on with her husband, and she comes back to find that her husband has brought his parents home. So Adeel's parents are moved in because Adeel is really tight on cash. He has to get money real quick, so he literally sells his parents' house, and he gaslights them into selling the house. And then the mom overhears him talking to Rabab that, you know, there was just a need and whatever excuse he gave, and she realizes that he basically lied to them because he said, oh, think about the future for your daughter, your son-in-law needs some money or whatever, and I'm gonna set you up in like an apartment. But he lies to them, and then he's also like, oh, there's no apartment, or there is an apartment but it's being renovated for now, you have to stay with us. Now Rabab is done with them, done with him specifically, and she says some harsh things. But I think like he needed to hear that. She didn't say it to the mother-in-law. She said it to Adeel, and she was just like, oh, like I need my privacy. Why are they here? And like, this is not an old age home. I don't want to adopt your parents and whatever. And like, those are really harsh and aggressive things to say. But I will say that she was very clear from the beginning that she wants her privacy. So for him to do that, obviously it's normal for her to have a reaction, maybe not say those things, but she obviously has a lot of the background of like he is stealing from her, so I can understand why she has those intense reactions. And for him, Adeel is such a bad person. He's like a narcissist and he loves to gaslight people. He's gaslighting everybody into thinking he's doing good for them, but really he is just trying to save himself. So it'll be nice. I think they, the mother, I don't know what her name is, but Adeel's mom is going to confront him at some point. Obviously she would, given the situation. And it'll be interesting to see everything just fall out of his hands, because he is trying to grasp for something to save him. He's grasping at air really, because everything is just falling apart, and it's just really nice to see. I will say I feel really bad for Rabab. I feel like, yes, she is a bit entitled, but like with her background, like it kind of all makes sense, but I don't think she deserved for her husband to be stealing from her business, from her dad's business, and from on top of that to be cheating on her. She doesn't deserve that. So I think Adeel deserves whatever reaction he's gonna get, and she doesn't even know about the cheating yet, and the cheating on like her best friend yet either. So it'll be interesting. Now let's switch it back to Mustafa and Shajina. Okay, like it feels like their relationship has continued to progress, but they are experiencing some roadblocks, specifically with the fact that Mustafa is so obsessed with making money and his work that he seems to not be able to manage his time with his wife. And I think it's because he has a lot of pressure, and he is putting a lot of this pressure on himself because he wants to be successful, he wants to prove himself, he wants to you know, get away from all of the accusations and the failures of the past, you know, with his previous job, with his parents, and being accused of stealing when he didn't steal and all that. So he wants to provide the best for her, but the thing that I think men don't understand, and I was saying this, talking about this with my husband, is the fact that oftentimes men seem to only be able to track or care about things that you can clearly quantify. So if you have money, you can quantify that money and provide stuff with that money. So for you, or for men, sometimes it feels like, okay, I am providing, but there is an emotional aspect of providing that oftentimes men aren't able to understand, that sometimes the emotional aspect is more than enough than women having like all the money in the world, right? Obviously you need money, but you really need the emotional support and the emotional connection, and Mustafa is not providing that to Shajina to the level that she wants and needs and honestly deserves, given the fact that she has been with him from the beginning. She has supported him and encouraged him a lot, and on top of that, now she's also pregnant. And I do still feel like Shajina, like they're playing up her like neediness a bit, I feel, but I kind of get it, but it still feels a little bit much. I wouldn't be surprised if we finally see that Shajina is fed up with him. She did go previously as well when they had an argument many episodes ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if she gets really, really upset in the next few episodes and they have some sort of conflict, because right now there's no real intense in-your-face conflict that they're experiencing. It's all subtle and very gradual, but it's going to peak at some point, and I think it's going to start to manifest itself very soon. I will say that I feel like Mustafa is definitely trying. He is trying to balance it, but I think it's just so new. And I think when you go from having no responsibilities to suddenly having a lot of responsibilities, like he did when he wasn't married to when he was married, it takes time. So it took him a lot of time to really get his life in order, because it was really not in order before he was married, and he did so with a lot of support from Shajina. Now I think he realizes that it's his time to be giving that support, and he needs to figure out how to balance all those things, because she has a lot going on too with her being pregnant. So I think that he is making progress, he's putting in effort, but it's just not as quickly as he needs to be doing for himself and for his wife. And on top of that, I'm sure he's going to find out about things going wrong with his family, and he's going to have more pressure. So let's see what happens, but it's gonna be interesting to say the least, and it's gonna be a lot for him to handle. So I'm not sure how it's gonna play out, but I feel like Mustafa and Shajina are going to have a bump in their relationship. Mustafa is going to be very overwhelmed when he finds out what's going on with his parents. I think he will try to support them immediately, but it's going to put even more pressure on him, and he's going to get more stressed out about that. And Adeel is probably going to face some really intense legal consequences. And I also think that his inability to stay loyal to Rabab is going to be revealed to Rabab at least. And then I don't know what's gonna happen after that. It's not gonna be good. Ugh. But that's what I thought about these 3 shows. I'm watching a lot more shows. I have another review coming out shortly for Zarat Patukaban, Bismil, Sun Mere Dil if you guys want that one, and also Iqtidar. And I will see you guys in the next video. But if you guys have any comments or thoughts on the shows that we're watching, let me know down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.